Hi, I'm Kyle, a tired therapist.
And I'm Jackie, also a tired therapist.
And together, we are
Two tired therapists. Welcome to the pod.
And hello.
We never coordinate our hellos, and it's
We
always
never
so
do,
much fun.
and it's fine.
It's great.
It's a what do they call it? Ad lib or
Yeah.
What do they call it?
Mad Lib? No, that's
Mad
that's,
Lib. This is the Mad Lib podcast. Welcome.
I already read one of those.
We did. We are the Mad
that was
Lib.
wild.
We are the Mad Lib
Yes,
podcast.
welcome to Two Tired
Welcome to
Therapists.
Two Tired Therapists. Still Pride Month. Happy
Yes,
Pride
happy
to the
Pride.
legitimate equal community.
Yes. Wave your flags. Kyle would
Wave
approve
your
of the flags.
Or I wouldn't. It's hard to say.
It's hard to know. Maybe
I
you
was
go back
thinking,
to our early
I was
episodes.
thinking after our last episode where we said we were supportive of the LGBT equal community that maybe we're not.
Oh,
maybe we're not,
maybe not
because maybe not me because I have made many statements.
Right. There's been a lot of things
that are
said.
anti-legitimate equal community, but it's fine.
Yes.
But it's fine. We're here. We're queer. I'll get used to it.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine.
Well, Kyle, what are you tired of this time round?
I don't know. This might be controversial. I'm not really sure. But I'm really tired of people who say they have an addictive personality.
Oh, yeah.
We gotta stop that. Yeah.
I don't think that's a real thing.
I don't think there's corroborated evidence that that's a thing. Would you say?
No.
Would you say there's such thing?
No, I wouldn't say that.
You can't be diagnosed. I mean, and it's always people that are like, "Oh, I'm addicted to like cleaning. I have such an addictive personality." Or like, I can't online shop because I have an addictive personality. No.
I have people
we
tell
don't
me
do
they're
that
OCD,
here.
and I'm like, well, what does that mean to you?
No.
And they're like, well, I like my house clean. I'm like, that's not
No,
the same
you have
thing.
anxiety.
Yeah.
You have anxiety.
It's fine.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't. Let's stop. Let's stop doing that. We don't have addictive personalities. There's really no such thing.
No, it just means I don't know. I know people get really intense about like they'll like dive into something, be really intense about it. I wouldn't call that an addictive personality.
No.
The people who say that, I'm like, you just like a lot of them are like into drugs. Like, and I'm like, seriously,
You're just addicted.
Yeah. Like it's fine. It's okay.
Well, and I think it's like they'll be like, "Oh, I read an article about the Titanic, and now I'm obsessed about the Titanic," and it's like, that's. I
don't
feel
think
like
you'd be
that's kind
obsessed
of
about-
normal.
Well, and I don't think you'd be obsessed if you were on it. You'd be like, get me out of here.
Right. Right. I feel like that's kind of normal because I do the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
you
I'm
look at something and you're like, oh my god.
like
yeah.
right now I'm like really into Star Wars, and then it's like, oh no, I'm really into Harry Potter, and it's like, it just I feel like that's normal.
That's how I feel. That's how I've been feeling the last few months. I've been really into documentaries on Netflix and some of the other places.
What kind of documentaries?
I really true crime.
Just anything.
True crime mostly. That doesn't have to be, but if those are the ones that are piquing my interest.
Yeah, you're just interested. It's just an interest.
It's fine.
You're exploring.
Yeah.
You're an addictive personality.
We don't know yet. I'm still finding out.
Maybe you do have addictive personality.
Maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
I do love The Sims. That's what I'd say.
What
would you say? Would you for yourself? I would say The Sims for me is like an addictive thing. But I don't know. I could walk away for like 6 months and be fine. But
see, that's that's the thing too. And I'm probably like video games. I guess
video games
maybe
is such a tough one
because it's like recently a new like Star Wars video game came out, and I have played. It's when I finally beat it last week, and I had played 60 hours.
Oh my!
It had been out 1 week,
I'm
but now I've not touched it.
Yeah,
I've
no,
not touched it since.
Yeah.
My serotonin has been blasted to the moon and back, and I'm good.
I love that.
So I wouldn't call that addictive personality. That's just it's new.
Yeah.
You know. I don't know. Stop it. Stop doing that. It's tired.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Well, this is kind of along the same vein.
Please.
I am really tired of these, I don't know, streaming services, I guess, that will just, they'll just release one episode and not the whole fucking series. I want to watch the whole thing. Let me watch the whole fucking thing.
What is it, the 90s?
Yeah, why don't I gotta wait?
Right.
Like, I'm right now watching, RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 8, and it's only 2 episodes at a time.
Right.
1 episode at a time. I hate that. Just give me the whole
right.
season.
Like, I'm gonna watch the season over
I hate that.
16 weeks. No.
No. I want to watch it all, or even like like stuff on Netflix or like Hulu, and you're like, no.
And they think it's so cool too. They're like, oh, we're doing one episode a week. Get the fuck out of here.
No, I want to watch the whole goddamn series, and I want to know what happens.
I want to sit down for 16 hours. I want to not shower. I want to not eat. I want to not drink water, and I want to watch this.
I want to turn off my phone. Have no contact with anybody. Yes, exactly.
Right.
hate it.
I know.
Anyways,
Yeah.
that's how I feel.
Wow.
I'm really tired of that. I really wish they would go back to just
Yeah.
putting out the whole show so you could binge it.
Who said binge watching is unhealthy? I've never seen a study about it. I'm just saying.
You know, I wonder if they're going to start doing that in like 10 years. Like
Probably.
of all of that. That'd be really interesting.
It'll be a diagnoses in the DSM-6.
Right.
Or the DSM-5 TR.2.
Yeah. Oh my God. Or the DSM 6 point, you know.
Oh my God.
6 TR6.
I hate it.
6.
Uh-oh.
I had to go there.
Hey-oh.
It's fine. It's fine.
On that note.
Well, I guess maybe we could consider this episode a cursed episode. I don't know. It's a Jackie episode, so we don't know.
Well, it is. Yeah. Well, let's see.
Along my lines of, you know, I'm really into the docs now. I just watched a documentary not that long ago, a couple months ago. It's been out for several years, which is really embarrassing. I didn't realize it had been out for so long.
Oh, has it?
I just watched it. Well, because it was just on my Netflix, like, you know when they do like the spotlight or whatever?
Yeah.
So it was just on my Netflix spotlight, I don't know, like a month or two ago. I don't know. It's called The 24 Faces of Billy Milligan. And I know you're so excited because you know how we feel about DID, which, spoilers, not very positive.
Oopsies. So you just stop listening now.
It's not good. But it's this documentary. It's on Netflix. So you've not watched this? I don't think.
I've not watched it. You have
I think
famously told me to watch it.
I think you should watch it.
I have yet not. But probably best for today, so you can talk to me about it.
So I'll just chat a little bit about it. And of course, I watched this like, you know, when I realized it was on my spotlight, which was several months ago. So if you ask me questions, I might be able to answer them, but I'm going to be honest, I may not remember some of this stuff. As a true Too Tired Therapist episode, we've prepared very thoroughly.
Months in advance, some would say.
Okay, so the 24 Faces of Billy Milligan.
Okay.
Is a 4-episode documentary on Netflix. They're about 45 minutes to an hour piece. It's not very long.
That's not bad.
It's released in 2021, and it looks at a man who was arrested in 1977 for robberies, kidnappings, and rapes of 3 different women on a college campus.
I already have feelings.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you'd like to know what college, it was Ohio State.
Oh.
That's important to you.
Oh, well.
Despite the evidence, Billy Milligan, said person, had no memories of the assaults and seemed to change personalities quite often.
Well, how convenient.
Right.
Was he from Ohio?
I think so, yes. Yes, I think so.
I'm sorry, you told me not to ask questions.
No, I think he was. And then but the family moved around a little bit. So like they're like Midwest based. I want to say maybe Michigan was where he originally grew up, but I could be wrong about that. So of course, they found him, they charged him. He said, hey, I have no memory of these crimes. I have no idea what you're talking about. So his lawyers got a team of psychiatrists together, and then they diagnosed him at the time with what was known as multiple personality disorder, which now it's dissociative identity disorder. It's the same
Wikipedia
thing.
said he was born in Florida, so oopsies. On Valentine's Day.
Interesting.
Oopsies.
Interesting.
Well,
it's fine.
Well, it's fine.
That would explain something that happens in the
Oh, good. Oh, great.
So they find these psychiatrists. They're like, oh, we've never seen anything like this. They diagnosed him with multiple personality disorder. They pled insanity for him because they said
was he the first person diagnosed with multiple personality?
No, he wasn't. Because in the documentary, they talked a lot about like the Sybil movie from Sally Field. And
yes,
stuff like that. So this was kind of like after that, I'm guessing.
Friend of the pod, Sally Field. Yeah.
Yes. We love her.
We love her.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So he said that 2 of the 10 personalities committed the crimes without Billy, the main. So when you have, I don't know how much you know about Kyle. I'll walk my statement back. I don't love multiple personality disorder. I don't think it's a really good diagnosis because, and I'll talk about it later. There's so many other diagnoses that would better cover dissociative stuff. But the main personality, who you are, is your main, and then they have your other personalities are known as your alters, your alter states or whatever. Right. So I'll probably use those terms, main and alter states. So the main Billy says, I don't know any of these things.
Of course.
So he actually was acquitted of the crimes.
Okay.
But spent about 10 years in different mental hospitals all throughout Ohio. Once he got to said state hospital, they got another psychiatrist who worked there, who I'm not really convinced was the best choice. One of the psychiatrists who worked there was basically like grandfathered in as a psychiatrist, never went to doctoral school. I mean, this is like the 80s, 70s, 80s.
No one went to school for anything.
Right. Yeah. And so this one psychiatrist just witnessed another psychiatrist. That's how he got his doctorate. So one of these guys said there were another 14 different personalities. So there's your 10 and your 14, so there's 24.
Great.
I will say in 1986, he escaped from the mental hospital and was on the run for quite some time. He ended up kind of connecting with his brother, who at the time I believe was living in Vancouver, Canada, or around that area. And then when he was on the run, he ran back to Florida and was down there for a hot period. He was released from the state hospital in 1980 and was completely discharged from the court system in 1991.
Great.
And then he kind of like went off the map for a while. They were going to make this. One of his sisters said that they were planning on making a movie. I can't remember if it was James Cameron or Steven Spielberg. One of the big Hollywood directors like kind of was looking for him and wanted to make his life a movie. And Billy went to Hollywood, and then like nobody heard from him for like 5 years, and then he came back and lived with his sister on her property in a trailer, and then he ended up dying of cancer, I think in the the early 10s or so.
Oh my goodness.
So for Billy, his alter personalities had names, different genders, and all different ages.
So this is where
Kyle's face is
let
the
me
greatest
just
thing I've ever
can
seen.
I just start? This
Sure,
is where
go
I hate
right
it.
ahead.
No, this is where I hate it because all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I have 24 personalities. They all have a very specific name, very specific age.
I'll tell you
because part of the idea is that you black out.
Well, and I'll tell you this. I will tell you that Billy did not say any of these things. These are the doctors who are like, oh, well, and they talk to all these different alters. Like there's video. I will say this is a very well done documentary. Lots of interviews. A lot of people who are still alive, like his original psychiatrists are still alive. So they interview them. He didn't realize this is what he had. So this is what they've given him as a diagnosis. They call in this expert. I can't remember what her name is. I'm not convinced she's a great psychologist or psychiatrist either. But a lot of her interviews with him were like, I want to talk to, this person. And so you watch the video and you're like, I don't know. I will say this, and I was going to save this till later, but I really was so skeptical because I am not, but I don't know. I'm so torn on him because for lots of reasons. So
please. Yeah.
So the Billy and his legal team said that one of his female alters committed the rapes, particularly the alter that was a lesbian.
So not in Pride Month. Not in Pride Month. We're not talking about that.
But the team who treated him at the state hospitals once he'd gotten acquitted, they called the alters the undesirables. And actually, Billy was a very talented artist and drew pictures. So there's lots of pictures of the alters, like they kind of part of his therapy. I will also say I'm not really going to talk about his therapy because I think it is a load of shit, to be honest. What they did for him back then, I think, is a total load of shit.
I hope we talk about it.
We will. I can talk a little bit about it. So he drew pictures. So some of his personalities were Arthur, a proper Englishman, a scientist who was an expert in medicine and like the study of blood. Billy had never was a kind of a normal person, and when he was in the Arthur altar, he knew a lot about medicine that like Billy himself wouldn't know. And it wasn't like all just, crap. Anyways, so then there was Reagan, a Yugoslavic communist.
Oh, sure.
There was Alan, who was a manipulator, and Tommy, an escape artist and a technophile. He really liked technology and all sorts of things like that. Those are just some of them. I want to say the one that he said committed the crime, I can't remember what her name was, but she was like a 19-year-old lesbian who was like kind of closeted and was, all these things.
Famously 19-year-old closeted lesbians
love to commit rapes.
Rape people. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's who you need to be watching out for, not the drag queens.
You said it.
So, like I said, the documentary had lots of video interviews. A lot of his legal team was still alive, so that a lot of them were like, it was very weird to be like in a room with him and like you'd be talking to him and you'd be like, this isn't Billy, like this is somebody else, like I'm not talking to Billy, I'm talking to somebody else. But I will say that as he kind of progressed through treatment, he disclosed an extensive history of abuse from his stepfather, which was corroborated by his brother and sister.
What kind of abuse?
A lot of physical, a lot of emotional. Billy also said there was sexual abuse. Of course, stepfather is not alive in today's times to do this documentary, and he denied the sexual abuse. But there were some witnesses and some corroborating evidence that maybe it did happen. I guess they moved and they kind of went somewhere where there's like a barn near the woods or in the woods, and there was one day where like Billy was his friends were walking through the woods looking for him or doing something for him, and they heard screams from this barn and they were like, it was 100% Billy. Like he was screaming in there. Billy didn't really have like a ton of memories of whatever the abuse was. And this is how they kind of explained, this is when his personality's fractured off into itself. We've never done like a trauma episode.
No.
I'm not a trauma expert by any means. It's not my thing, but essentially when you have trauma, your brain will protect yourself. And so that's why like you see a lot of people who have maybe gone through something traumatic and they're like, I can't tell you what have happened because that's their brain. So they said when Billy was a kid, that's when all of his stuff kind of fractured. I will say he had kind of a little bit of a legal history, like kind of like pettyish drug and alcoholish type of crimes. It could have contributed to some of this too. So stepfather abused him for sure, physical, emotional, most likely sexual. One thing that it was pretty compelling to me was that he had brainwave testing, the EEG, the electro, whatever, and his brain patterns did change in his altered states, and all the times they had him change, they changed every single time, which is that is not something you can fake very easily.
No,
so I was like,
can't.
so that's you. What you just did. That's what I was watching it, and I was like,
Interesting.
I was like, okay, you've
well, you
piqued my
have
interest.
famously said on this podcast, if people can prove that your brain changes,
yes,
then maybe.
Yes, then I will stop saying you're a faker.
Faker.
Well, because I've met some people in my time in doing therapy who are like, I have DID, and I'm like, no, you don't, because if you have DID, you wouldn't be telling me you have DID.
Right, you don't know. Right.
No, you won't know, and that's what Billy was like. I don't have any. Like he's like, I don't know what.
Right.
I don't know what's being said when I'm not here.
Well, that's my biggest gripe is that people will be like, oh yeah, I have DID, and I have 200 personalities, and. Personality 1 is Betsy, who's 32, and like have like full dossiers on each. I'm like, no.
No.
Part of DID is that you black out and you don't know.
And like some of them, they're like I want to like bring us Betsy, and they're like.
Right.
You can't see me, but it's like you're like shaking. It's almost like you're being like, I don't know, like
they're like in The Exorcist.
Yeah, like and he didn't look like this. Like
and,
the psychiatrist or the psychologist would be like, I'd like to talk to Reagan right now.
And they're like, hold on, let me get him.
Yeah, and he kind of was.
Hi, I'm Reagan.
And he kind of Billy didn't do that. He kind of kept looking at him, and then all of a sudden he would change. I guess one of his personalities, I don't remember if it was Reagan, but there was another one that didn't, like, English wasn't the first language, and I guess when he was in the altered state, he wrote like a whole thing in a different language that he'd never learned.
Interesting.
And it was partially accurate.
See.
So
there you go, partially accurate.
But it wasn't something that he'd ever learned as a kid, or it wasn't a language that he learned.
Know of. That we
so
know of.
I really, like I said, I was very skeptical.
People are good at manipulating.
Well, that's what the prosecution said. They're like, he's a liar, he's a this, he's a that, he's all sorts of like, it was really kind of funny. They were like, he's such a, he's a drug user, and like they tried to really paint him in this way.
He has an addictive personality,
and his family was just like, this is how he's been since he's a kid. Like you'd be talking to him, and you'd be like, oh, that's not like that's somebody else. That's not Billy. Even the mom had passed away, but. They had interviews with the mom, and she was like, even as a kid, he would do the same thing. Like, you'd be talking to him, and then all of a sudden, he'd kind of change, up a little bit, and she's like, you didn't know what you were dealing with sometimes. So, well, I will say, watching it was really interesting. Obviously, as the 80s, as I will mention, probably more than one time during this whole thing, one more time. There were many borderline and kind of really unethical borderline and very over the line unethical things. So at the time that all this was going down, the psychiatrist, who wasn't really an actual medical doctor, the one who like watched another medical doctor, he like wrote a book on Billy that is a pretty famous one still to this day, and was able to profit off of it while he was working in the hospital treating Billy, and then Billy was able to get a cut of the profits. Well, so at one point had Billy. Like bought a brand new like Buick whatever, and like would drive around it at the state hospital. Like there were no rules back then.
Love that. My
mom would tell me the same thing. She'd be like, there were no rules.
There were no rules. No, it was the 80s.
There was the 80s.
It was whatever, yeah.
So that was before they changed laws saying you cannot profit off of things when you're, well, I think they changed it more so for when you're incarcerated. But
ethics, who knows her? Nobody.
Right. It was very, I was questionable. A lot of the stuff I was like, oh, like they had interviews with some of the people who worked with him at the state hospital, and they were like, a lot of them said, he always was the same. He never acted any different. A lot of people said he was like a master manipulator, that he had lied about all this stuff. And it's hard to say because it was, obviously he's not alive, so we can't talk about it. Later in the last episode or so, they kind of talk about how they think he committed 2 murders. Oh. And I guess on his deathbed, told his niece, I did kill those 2 guys. So one of them was sort of a guy, when he was on the run up near in Vancouver, he met some guy, was like, I need a place to stay. The guy was like, sure. Again, this is like the 80s. There are no rules. Right,
there were no rules. Sure, strangers stay with us.
So this random guy's like, yeah, I'll let you stay with me. Well, then the random guy goes up missing. They never find his body. They assume he's dead. But the last person to see him alive and live with him was Billy Milligan. Maybe Millie Billigan. Maybe I know who it was.
Maybe Millie Billigan.
Maybe Millie Billigan. We don't know. And so They never find, I think they found his broken glasses. They found something like within Billy's possession that belonged to the other guy that they were like, oh, that means he murdered him.
And of course Billy's like, I don't know.
But I think, no, and I think sort of, and yes and no. But also, I guess in Washington State, if you don't have a body, you don't have a crime.
Sure. So, well, famously in a lot of,
right,
a lot of cases.
Right. And so they could never pursue anything. Right. There was another murder, I think it was in Ohio, of somebody that like they presume that Billy killed that person. I don't remember the circumstances around it, but there were 2 different murders, and then I guess on his deathbed he was like, yeah, I killed all those people.
Well,
so
gotta come clean before you meet Jesus.
Well,
that's what they say.
You never know.
You never know. You never know.
I'm gonna pivot out of that. I'm gonna meet Jesus someday, and he's gonna be like, "You're rotted.
You're
goodbye."
Rotted. Right. Goodbye. Goodbye. So
going
sorry.
Downstairs.
So
okay.
Sorry.
So DID is a dissociative disorder.
Yes,
shockingly, I know.
Dissociative identity disorder.
Yes, it's characterized by the presence of at least 2 distinct personalities.
Okay.
Besides the main personalities.
Oh, okay.
The alters have different thoughts, memories, and behaviors compared to the main personality. That's a diagnostic criteria.
Right.
These differences can be observed by other people, or it can be self-report. The main personality tends to have gaps in their memory about personal information and events that have happened in their life, and even potentially traumatic events.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if you've ever looked at the diagnostic criteria for DID.
No.
This the only time I ever looked at it was for this. It's like 3. That's literally it. I mean, that's it. And it's just like causes a marked, functioning.
Right.
There's a lot. I will say there's a big chunk of it about differentials and rule outs.
Of course.
Which, for those not in the field, those are like, if I think you have depression, but I'm not sure, there's rule outs, there's other things.
Like you have to make sure it's not bipolar. You have to make sure it's not substance induced depression.
Right. So you may go through an intake with a person, you might be like, I have anxiety, and they may ask you, like, have you used substances? Like they have to rule out and all these different things. So there's so many others.
Sure.
Schizophrenia. At one point he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, which I don't agree with necessarily, because it didn't. There wasn't any there wasn't any psychosis. Like he wasn't like, I hear people. It was just all these options.
Right.
PTSD is a big one for dissociative because of the symptoms associated with PTSD.
Yeah.
Substance use is a big one you have to look at, because obviously there are some substances that will make you hallucinate or dissociate.
Famously.
I know, it's famously. You got bipolar disorder. That's something you got to rule out. So, but the hallmark of a dissociative identity disorder specifically is trauma, which for Billy, a lot of this trauma happened before he was 10 years old.
Right.
Which is kind of what they say, is that anything before 10 years old puts somebody at even higher of a risk.
Sure. Because it's like that idea that breaks your psyche, and you have these different personalities that form as protectors.
Well, and like even listening to the interviews with his brother and sister, and like the stepdad really was pretty physically abusive to everyone, including their mom. And I guess there was an altercation at one point. The older brother said, like, I don't remember what was kind of the lead up. They were at like the dinner table and somebody didn't do something. And then the stepdad grabbed Billy or the mom, one of the 2 of them, and was like about to like start hitting them. And then the older brother like went up to him and like almost killed him because he was so mad. And they all kind of were like, we hate this guy, but this is who the mom married because her first husband was older and died. I don't remember. There was a lot of stuff that happened to Billy before he reached adulthood. I mean, some of it pretty severe. But the mom had remarried this guy. And then I think she made them all change their last names too. Like it wasn't their dad's, their biological dad's last name. So anyways.
Messy.
It was a little messy. Yeah. It was a little like, like, yeah. And I was really, I was like, I'll just watch this, because the first episode I was like, this is all bullshit. Like, I can't believe this guy. 24 Faces, you're a fucking liar. I can't look
get
at
the
you.
fuck out of here.
And then the more I started watching, and I was like, I was like, okay. Oh, you had an EEG testing? Oh, okay. It did show something. Okay. All right, fine. You've hooked me, whatever.
Right.
And then you watch the videos of him and you're like, it's not like, like I said, it's not like the Dr. Phil, like exorcism, like, I want to talk to Roger, and they're like, like, it's not like that.
Roger, I summon you.
Yeah. Do you remember that? That was like from forever ago. There was an episode of Dr. Phil where they had a guy.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it was a guy. Yeah, I think it was. He had multiple personality disorder, and they were like, Dr. Phil was talking to him, which I'm really sorry to anybody who loves Dr. Phil, and I'm sure
No, we're
my
not.
mom
No,
is
I'm so
listening.
sorry.
She used to love Dr. Phil.
Phil's a flop. So sorry.
He is, well, and he's not a actual licensed psychologist anymore. He like lost his license because of some stuff. Anyways, when he had his Dr. Phil show, which I think he still has, but a long time ago, he had some guy who was multiple personality, and the guy was like on the stage, and Dr. Phil's like, I'd like to talk to Marcus. And the guy's like, okay. And he like puts his head down. He like bows his head and he like opens it. And he like, it was the biggest, fakest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, oh, get out of here with this bullshit. But anyways, Billy didn't do that.
I was looking. There's it looks like a woman who believes she had dissociative identity. I remember I watched one that was a woman who, it was on the Oprah Winfrey show.
Yeah, that might have been it too. Maybe I'm thinking of that.
And she's had 20 personalities, and she knew they all had names, and she knew how old they were and their likes and their dislikes. And I was like, no, mama. No, yeah.
It's fine. Well, because Billy didn't
allegedly.
He didn't know. The thing that also was kind of compelling was he didn't keep track of, at least in the documentary.
And
they
that
didn't
is
show
more
him keeping. They didn't. He didn't keep track of it.
Right. Well, like you said, the idea is that you have those lapses in your memory where you're like, oh, what was happening?
Well, and like he would come back and they'd be like, be like, what were we talking about? And they're like, oh, you don't remember? And he was like, no.
Where other people are like, oh yeah, Jesus was here and talking to you guys. Like,
no. So I will say, poor Billy. I do feel bad for him if he really did have it. Because jury's still out for me, to be honest.
Is he alive?
No, he died of cancer.
Oh yeah.
And like 14 or 15.
Oh,
it was
interesting.
He like I said, he went off after he got discharged from the court system. He kind of went out to Hollywood, spent some years out there, and then came back one day, like showed up on his sister's doorstep, and she just let him live on our property. So I feel bad for him in a lot of ways because I don't think the therapy was very good for him. Probably it's the 80s, and we don't know
not
very
great
much
for
about
anybody really.
And
psychodynamic.
So a lot of it was they were trying to I forget the terminology they used. It was not anything I've ever heard, but they were trying to basically fuse, maybe they called it fusion. They were trying to fuse his personalities all together at the same time. So to like do that, you had to sort of like, I don't even know how to describe it because it was really bizarre, but they were trying to like get Billy to recognize the other personalities. And then once that happened, that was the fusion. And so they were trying to get him to fuse to all of his personalities so he would just be Billy.
Sure. How'd that go? Not great.
Mama.
Bad. Mama, it wasn't good.
Girl. It was bad. Watching, I mean, like, because the very first psychiatrist, I don't remember what she was, who worked with him. I mean, she just kind of like sat there. I mean, it's like, did you watch those old-timey videos in grad school or like where they would like sit next to the patient and the patient would be like freaking out and they'd be like, now tell me how you, I mean, like she just kind of was like,
was she like, this is Debbie?
Yeah,
like recognize like Debbie.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's kind of like compel yourself,
Right.
Cry, the power of Christ compels you. without Jesus, it was just kind of like recognize
the power of Freud compels you. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
We
should do an episode on Freud. Expose him. Anyways, so she. I don't think that the therapy wasn't good. I really don't think he ever got good therapy.
It wasn't in the 80s for anybody.
And then he went to the state hospital, and then they basically were like, guess what, boo? Like, we don't know what we're doing, so we're going to write a book on it.
Right.
And then I'm going to discover
we're going to give you some barbiturates and call it a day.
Right. And they did. They put him on meds, I think, and he didn't like, and that's part of the reason why he escaped he like broke loose, or I want to say escaped, but he fled because they kept changing his meds, and they were putting him on some pretty heavy shit. They're like Thorazine. I mean, then that again. We keep saying
everybody was on that,
but like, this was the 80s, so like,
depression, Thorazine,
I forget,
anxiety,
there was
Thorazine,
there was
gay, Thorazine. Yeah, it was literally that was the 80s.
Gay, Thorazine, woman, Thorazine.
Right.
Do you
have a vagina?
Yeah. You have a period? Oh, Thorazine. You're crazy.
It's not even funny. It's not even funny because that's so true. They literally, you're having your period, Thorazine. Here
Hysteria.
You go.
You gotta go calm down in the corner.
You need to take this vibrator and you need to just put it in your punene once a week.
Right.
That will cure you.
Hysteria.
That's not even, we're not even being funny.
No,
that's
that is literally
what people
they
used
did.
to do in the 80s. Yeah.
And so, so he, there was, I can't remember what the combo was. I think they said it. There was a combo of meds that actually helped sort of with the mood stuff of him.
Interesting.
So there was a combo of meds that he did kind of respond well to.
Trazodone, probably.
It probably was trazodone.
Yeah.
So, so there were meds involved, which, spoilies, well, we can talk about treatment. I guess we can talk about it now, but there's no medication treatment for DID. Absolutely not. It's basically all talk therapy. From what I could find of current stuff, it's like, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy,
snooze.
Trauma therapy,
sure.
But for Billy, poor guy didn't get really any great therapy. And I don't know what he did after the state hospital. It doesn't sound like he kept in treatment with himself. And that's why a lot of people were like, if he was really that bad, he should have, he should have had not been able to function. But he didn't have problems functioning, when he committed the crimes necessarily. Like it just, he was committing crimes.
What did he do?
It was kidnappings, robberies, and rapes of 3 women. They talk about, like, the very first episode, they talk about it. I think he was just like, I think he was following somebody and then, like, grabbed them and then raped them and then took something from them. I don't remember if it was, like, their purse or something. I don't remember. I can't remember how I think it was DNA evidence, because they had his DNA from other crimes, I think, at the time or something. They had fingerprints, maybe. I don't remember what it was. The 70s, but. Interesting. So, yeah, poor guy. Poor guy. No good therapy.
If once he got released, though, it's like, well, why all of a sudden did this personality not want to continue raping?
Yeah.
Right? That would be my question.
Well, and that's kind of what everybody said. They're like, they said that they were successful in fusing some of his personalities together, but not all of them. And I can't remember if the one who he said committed the crimes actually got fused with the rest of him. But it was interesting. Like, I will say, I feel like his family, they talked about how they tried, before he committed the rapes, that they really tried to, like, get him help and, like, get him, into treatment. And, like, because he was I want to say he was a pretty big substance user.
Oh. What was he using? Do we know? Do you remember?
I think alcohol was one of them. I think there were other stuff. Part of me says meth, but I'm like, I don't know that it was meth. It was harder than weed. It was.
Sure.
I can't remember. I'm such a good host. Anyways, so, well, let's just take a break. Quick break, and then I would love to hear your thoughts on DID, and we can just like chittily chat about what we think about this.
Please.
So
we'll be right back.
We're back.
And we're back.
Well, Kyle.
I'm ready.
I know what you're gonna say just by that, but tell me and all of the listeners what do you think about DID? Have you ever seen it? Would you diagnose it? Tell me all the things.
I have never witnessed it. I have never felt compelled to even
look at that part of the DSM.
as part of a diagnosis.
Sure.
I think what I have seen, like I've been saying, is people will say, oh, yeah, I have, 16 personalities and they have this name and these are their interests. And, one is a gay man. No.
No.
Because, again, you're supposed to, part of what I know to be DID is that you black out. So, like, you don't know this is happening. Yeah. You are not conscious.
It's almost like amnesia or like,
right.
the fugue states or whatever. Yes. So like when you black out, you don't know.
Right. So I'm, not a strong believer. I think not that these people aren't experiencing what they're experiencing, but maybe they're just calling it this and really it's just something else. If that is not vague enough to say. Well, it makes me think of like, internal family systems, which talks about like parts of self that show up in various times.
Right.
Like that's what it makes me think of, and maybe it's just kind of an extreme version of that where they're like, oh, here's this, I don't know, macho self of me who's showing up and it just manifests strongly.
Yeah.
But I'm not a firm believer at all.
I don't know that I've ever met somebody practicing, like, in all of my time and all my different like places that I've worked. I don't think I've ever met a single practicing clinician that like thought this was a real thing that could be diagnosed.
Right.
I also have never seen it used. I have had, well, in the prison system, I had a few or knew of a few. I didn't have anybody on my caseload, but I knew people in our unit who were trying to say that they had DID, and they very firmly did not have DID.
Sure.
I'm sure that's very shocking to you and all the listeners, but I really don't know of anybody that would.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody, and you and I know a lot of the same people at maybe one of the places that we've may or may not have worked together.
Right. I've never heard it discussed.
I worked with somebody who had almost the exact same belief as me, and she was like, absolutely not. Like, I would never even entertain this if somebody came up to me and said, I want to diagnose a client with this.
Yeah. In my single, maybe double digits of working as a therapist, never once have heard any clinician I've ever come into contact with talk about that they have had someone with dissociative identity disorder.
No. Just, and like I said, and like we kind of talked about, there's so many other diagnoses that I think would better qualify if you really felt like this, specifically like PTSD and like personality disorders. I think maybe would probably fall under this category. But I don't know. It was hard because I watched this documentary and I was like, I could see it. I mean, I can see where like there's a little bit more evidence to support the diagnosis, but there was. And of course, the documentary is going to sell you on what they want you to think. And the family kind of was just like, I don't know who like wanted the documentary. I don't think the family did, but I mean, they were pretty open. They were like, we were just trying to, do what we thought was going to be best for him. And like, we thought the state hospitals were going to be the best, but
oopsies.
Yeah.
Not so
the
much.
80s. We don't care.
It was always there. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, I definitely have had my clients where like they come in and they're like, they do seem like a quote different person that day because they're dysregulated or they're whatever, but not to the sense I'm like, wow, this isn't insert patient's name here. Like I don't recognize this person.
Right.
Like,
they're not like talking in a different voice and they're not like a Yugoslavic communist.
Not a Yugoslavic. Never met a Yugoslavic communist in my life. So yeah, never experienced that. So I'm not, you know what? I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. I don't study it. I've never looked at all the research.
There really isn't a lot of research because it is so controversial within the psychology community. I kind of just looked a little bit. I didn't like do like a deep dive. I didn't go into anything, too wild, but there really isn't. Like I said, there's not a lot of studies. There's a couple people who do DID type of stuff, but I don't know that there's even. I forget what the percentage is. It's a very small percentage. That's like it's like less than it's like a point something percentage of people who've been diagnosed with it.
Well, and I remember, I mean, I took a personality course in grad school about just like how does your personality, like where do we get that? Where do we get a personality? Sure. And it's a very, I guess, fixed thing that happens.
Right.
We work. Part of it's that nurture versus nature. Like part of it is you're just kind of born with a temperament, and then part of it is you have personal experience that creates some of your temperament too. So it's just so structured in the fact that how do you get multiples of those?
Right.
And let alone 24.
Right. And like that's the part where I get stuck. It's like, okay, I can buy that your brain is trying to shield you from a trauma, but then how does it split off so deeply to like 24 different people?
Right.
And even if we say, okay, let's forget the other, 14 that came in the state hospital that had never, but to have 10 sort of alters, it just seems a lot. Seems like a lot. I'm already a lot as a person. I can't imagine having other personalities. Can you imagine?
Oh my God. They would probably be a break to,
I mean, it's just
my actual personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe if you had like some alter ego, like one that's like your, I don't know, it's like your bitch protector. Like, okay, maybe, it's like, I don't know, Janine who keeps you, strong. But like to have Janine and Becky and David and Amanda, it's getting too much for me.
It's too much to figure out. It's fine.
It's too much.
So
we don't know. Jury's still out. If you are a DID specialist and would love to come on the pod and
I would love to talk to somebody. I would love to talk to somebody who diehard believes in this because I just don't.
But if you come on here and say you have DID and say you have 24 personalities,
we're not going to talk to you.
And you start to give us dossiers of each one, we will cancel you immediately.
Yeah, we won't talk to you because I'm not dealing with that.
Just not dealing with it.
Well, highly recommend watching this documentary.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it.
You should.
I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it.
But I do have a would you rather this time.
Oh, good. Very good.
It's not very exciting. I will say that. I'm so sorry.
How great.
I wanted to be honest and just tell you up front. Lower your expectations.
Consider them lowered.
Well, I didn't want to
I'm going to let my alternative ego, Amanda, take over, and I'm officially have low expectations. Thank you.
Exactly. Right. I'm gonna try to find that clip of the guy.
Please do. We'll post it. We'll post on the Insta.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you because it'd be funny. Okay, these are like personality identity questions. I was like trying to think of something that was within the theme, but there wasn't anything good, so I ended up making
Are you a flop or not?
Yeah, are you a fetch or are you a flop? Would you rather be a fetch or a flop?
Definitely. I'd rather be a fetch, but I'm definitely a flop. So.
Okay, ready? I had to make some of these up, but the first one is: would you rather be honest or brilliant?
Oh,
some of these are hard. Some of these are like
good.
Honest or brilliant? I'd rather be honest.
I think I would say honest too. I mean,
because what does brilliant really mean? I mean,
yeah, like book smart, like brilliant, like book smart, or
it's open to interpretation.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd rather be described. I'm just thinking like base, like if someone was like, oh, Kyle, he's really honest, or oh, Kyle, he's really brilliant. I think I'd rather go honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a very honest person, but I'd rather be honest than brilliant. Okay. Would you rather be funny or creative?
Oh, funny. Definitely funny.
You're like, funny right now. Funny.
Because I am
You
funny.
are funny.
I am funny, yeah. I am, and I'm not creative.
I think I would also say funny and not creative. But I feel like if you picked creative, though, you could still be funny in a different way.
Yeah, of course.
You'd be clever enough to do stuff like that.
I mean, it would be fun to be creative. I have lots of creative friends who like make art and stuff. I'm like,
I know. I'm always like,
that'd be so cool.
Yeah, I can't do that. I'm drawing stick figures over here.
Right.
And the S from like, middle school.
I know exactly.
That all like the parents and teachers thought was like a gang thing, and it was really us just being dummies.
Right.
It's fine. Okay, would you rather be ambitious or timid?
Oh, ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think?
Right. I don't want to be timid. I don't think I'm timid.
I don't think I'm timid, but
I wouldn't say I'm ambitious either, but.
This one's hard. I don't know, because I could see it both ways. Like timid. I don't know that it. You're just hesitant. It's like hesitant versus like proactive, maybe.
For some reason, I think ambitious. I think workaholic, and that's not me.
That's what and then I'm like, I'd rather be timid. I'd rather not be like searching for the next thing. I don't know.
Right.
I'm in the middle.
Yeah. Whatever's in the middle of those two.
Would you rather be anxious or arrogant?
Oh.
I made up this one.
Would I rather be anxious or arrogant?
I know my answer.
I guess I'd rather be arrogant.
I'd rather be just arrogant.
I'd
rather be anxious. I'm already an anxious person.
Oh, okay. See, I'm not an anxious person.
Oh.
Maybe I'm an arrogant.
Good for you.
I don't think I'm arrogant, though.
No, you're not arrogant. But if you had to pick one or the other, I'd rather be anxious. I'd rather be that than arrogant.
I guess I'd rather be arrogant than live in fear.
I guess doesn't necessarily mean you live in fear, but it's more, like it's like second guessing your decisions or like being really overconfident in everything that you do.
I guess I'd rather be overconfident.
I'd rather second guess all my decisions.
Oh,
I do it anyway all the time.
Oh, normal day
this is for me. Yeah, this one I don't know. This one's tough, and it's almost the same thing, but not really. Would you rather be gullible or naive? I'd rather be naive.
Aren't those the same thing?
No.
Oh, how are they different?
So gullible is like you believe what anybody tells you. So like if I'm like my ceiling is blue and you're like okay, like but it's white and I'm like no, my ceiling's, it's like almost like gaslighting somebody, like but you're gullible, so you're easily fooled, versus naive, you're just kind of like innocent and maybe not so something you're easily fooled. It's just like you don't really know how the world works. I'd rather be naive. I would not want to be gullible. I would not want to believe what anybody tells me.
Oh. Yeah, I guess. That's a tough one.
I know. I saw these two words and on this list, and I was like, it was like looking at personality traits. So I was like, oh, I'll do like, would you rather be this or this? And then I was like, ooh, this is a good question though. Yeah. Gullible, easily persuaded to believe something. And then let me look up naive, just so I'm giving correct definitions. Showing a lack of experience, wisdom, or judgment.
So gullible is just kind of like there's just no critical thinking. You're just like, whatever. It's whatever someone tells me. Whereas naive, you're like, I don't really know. And I'm just kind of going with it.
Yes. Gullible means like if somebody were like, the sky is green, you'd be like, okay.
Okay, cool. But naive,
naive is just you have no, you just lack
like
experience and wisdom and.
You'd be like, the sky is green, and I'm gonna write a paper on it because that's what everybody says.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I wouldn't be either of those.
Pick. That's why I picked these two.
I guess I'd rather be gullible, but I don't know why. I don't have a good explanation why.
All right, last one. You ready?
Yeah.
Would you rather be indecisive or opinionated?
Oh, opinionated.
I know.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Everybody's listening is like, you guys don't shut the fuck up about your opinions.
You guys don't shut the fuck about anything. Right. Right.
Oh my God. I
have an opinion on everything, even if I don't feel strongly about it.
I don't know if I have an opinion on everything, but I somebody were like, what would you do in this situation?
Yeah.
95% of the time I'm like, I would do this.
I feel like though we're opinionated but not judgmental necessarily.
No, I don't.
Where we're like, well, you know what? This is what I feel about this. If someone feels different, cool. Like,
yeah, I'm like, if somebody tells me they're like, this is what's going on in my life, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I'll listen to it, and then they're like, what would you do? And I'd be like, well, I would do this, but I'm not gonna get mad if they don't do it. I tell them I don't care.
Right.
I mean, it's your life. Do whatever you're gonna do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. It's like our, where we've looked at the Reddit posts and stuff. We're like, yeah, we had opinions on what those people were going through, but you know what? You want to piss in the backyard? Fine.
Just piss in your backyard.
I have something to say about it. But you live your life, boo boo.
I'm still gathering stories from whenever we want to do that episode
I
next.
Can't wait. Yeah, we have to do another one sometime soon.
I did get some feedback from some people that they did like that episode, which I was like, oh, yeah.
It's rotten.
That was a little rough. That was kind of rough to read some of those, but it's fine.
But
I'm actively gathering for the next episode.
We do this for you, dear listener.
Yeah.
The things we do are for you.
Listen. Person,
people.
Appreciate it, you
bitch. Yeah. Well,
and on that note, we love to call you names. We don't know you. We can't. We're not looking at you, but we just called you bitch. So
wait. So take that as you will.
It's a term of endearment.
It
really is. People get weird about it. Anyways,
well, here we are.
Well, it's been another lovely episode.
Stay tuned for for July.
Yes. You can find us on the social media.
You can.
On Instagram mostly. Mm-hmm. That's where we like to post the most to Tired Therapists.
Mm-hmm. We do have a Facebook, I think.
I don't think so.
We don't have Facebook?
Do we? We have a Twitter, but I don't think either of us have ever used it.
No, I'm not a tweeter. But we do have the Insta. We do have an email.
We do have an email.
Of course.
That I don't know who checks it, but somebody does.
Somebody does.
Probably just
yeah. Or, one of our many assistants.
Sure. We're so professional here, as you can tell.
Yeah. Here at
every episode.
Well,
kids.
Well, on that, we'll just let you stay tired.
I'm ready.